Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing some top tips for visiting Disneyland Paris in 2023. I visited the resort last month for 4-ish days / 3 nights. It was not my first visit though, I'd actually been maybe 5 or 6 times at this point, so I'm very lucky to have gone a fair few times, and I picked up some tips along the way to share with you guys now. So obviously if you're visiting this year, you will be lucky enough to celebrate Disneyland Paris's 30th anniversary. It's going to be everywhere. This isn't like the 50th in Disney World. It is a very obvious anniversary in the best way. I am wearing my special ears. There's loads of cute merch. I actually am wearing as well my 2023 zip up from there. I'll be really on theme for this video. So if you visit any time between now and the end of September, you're gonna get to partake in those celebrations, which are so fun. Dreamtime brighter, I will get to it later, but it's honestly perfect. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into my top tips. So the first one is around what attractions to prioritize if you are a first-time visitor. There's a few attractions that are exclusive to Disneyland Paris. The first and also most popular of these is Crush's Coaster over in Walt Disney Studios Park. This always has the longest line. You should try and do it in the morning if you can, because it gets kind of crazy. It's kind of similar, I guess, to Cosmic Rewind and like the smoothness of it, and you kind of spin around, but also it's a single vehicle versus like a whole train of them. It doesn't have like the launch element, and it doesn't have the music randomization. Like the smoothness is basically the only thing that's the same, but it is really fun. I wouldn't say it's like worth queuing over an hour for, but it's definitely one to prioritize first thing in the morning. The other ride in that park that used to be exclusive is Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. Obviously it is in Disney World now, but this is the original. Disney World is a carbon copy of Paris's because it came first. That doesn't mean you should skip it here though, because one of the cool parts of this attraction is as the ride comes into the exit, it actually gives you a view of the Remy's restaurant, which is exclusive to Disneyland Paris. This is where you can shrink down to the size of a rat and dine in Remy's own restaurant. I personally have never eaten there, and I don't think I ever will, because, well, I'll come to this later in terms of like which restaurants to go to, but it has a set menu, and as a vegetarian it's just not really worth me going because I won't really get the value out of it. But it is a very cool concept and experience from people I know who have gone there. So as your ride vehicle comes in, you get a whole view of that, and it is so cool. Also, the line is generally pretty short. When I was there I never saw it over 25 minutes, so it could be a good way to go on the ride if you've always been put off by the long lines in Epcot before. Also in Walt Disney Studios you're going to have Flight Force, which is their converted version of Rock 'n' Roller Coaster. I actually really like it. It's really fun. It's not like revolutionary, but I feel like it didn't deserve all the flack that it got. It could do with a few extra screens, but it's still going to have that amazing launch element that is the best part of the ride anyway. When you go across to their version of the Magic Kingdom park, there's actually not that many exclusive attractions. It's more that there's different versions of attractions that you think you know, but actually they put a very different spin on them. So firstly, the exclusives is going to be Alice's Curious Labyrinth, which is basically a maze. It is really fun though, and at the end you can go up the Queen's Castle and have a beautiful view of Fantasyland. It's definitely worth it just for the view alone. And then also underneath the castle you can actually see an amazing animatronic of Maleficent the dragon. It's pretty scary, I will say that, but like it moves and everything, and the atmosphere is super creepy. It's just such a cool addition to the park. So these are attractions that you may have done before, but actually are very different in Disneyland Paris. First of them is Haunted Mansion. It's actually called Phantom Manor here, and it's a whole cool like glow in the dark vibe towards the end, and it's just a completely different attraction to the ones in Disney World and Disneyland. Their Pirates of the Caribbean also has a completely different introduction and ending, which are really cool. Big Thunder Mountain takes place on this whole different island. You kind of go underneath the water and then over the water and around the water, and it's really cool. Indiana Jones is very different here, but not in the best way. Personally, it's a skip for me because it really hurts my neck. You get jolted around like crazy. It's nothing like the Disneyland version. Honestly, I would just skip this one. But the main one I want to mention, which is so different but also amazing, is Hyperspace Mountain. It's my favorite out of Disney World, Disneyland and Paris. It has an amazing launch, it has inversions, it has screens up because it's Star Wars themed, and it's just the coolest one by far. So obviously there's quite a lot of rides you have to do, and one way to get around that is the single rider lines. I actually have a list of where you can use single rider: Hyperspace Mountain, Crush's Coaster, Ratatouille, Flight Force, Web Slingers, Toy Soldiers, Parachute Drop, and RC Racers. So this is just next to the regular standby line, and it basically means you have to ride by yourself. You can use the line even if you're not like queuing alone, but just bear in mind that you will actually be on the attraction with strangers, which I'm totally fine with. I know not everyone would be, but if you're not riding with little kids or you just feel comfortable doing it, it can save so much time. Me and my mum did it whenever it was available, and there'd be like a 30-minute standby line, and we basically walk on the attraction, which was so good. And it's great that Paris has these at quite a lot of attractions now. Another way to really maximize your time is to ride most of your rides in the mornings and the evenings. We found that the evenings, the last like hour before park closed, the park just seemed to like, well, it wasn't empty, but the lines were just so quiet, and we would go on so many rides one after the other, pretty much just walking on them. The mornings as well obviously are a really great time to be in the park. That's true of any Disney park, but in particular here you can benefit from extra magic hours if you are staying on site at a resort, which I personally recommend. We'll get to that a bit later, but it means you get to go in an hour before everyone else, no matter what day it is. So normal park open was 9:30 and we got to go in at 8:30. It meant that even once park opened at 9:30 though, in the first couple of hours we were able to do most of the rides that we wanted to do, just because you really have to maximize that morning time. Make sure your alarm is set and you are ready to go, because it just makes the whole day run so much smoother. So then you have your morning peak time, you have your evening peak time. The middle of the day you can kind of like meet characters, try treats, see shows, and then a benefit of staying on site as well, that afternoon you can go back to the resort because it's like a 15-minute walk away, and just take a lie down, take a nap, take a chill. One thing I will mention quickly before diving into the benefits of staying on site is when it comes to kind of maximizing your evenings, note that Fantasyland attractions close an hour before the fireworks. This is to get the whole area ready, especially for the drone show they have right now for the 30th anniversary. So if the drone show is at, I think it was at 9:55, at 9 o'clock that whole area was closed. You couldn't go on any more attractions. So just something to bear in mind. We tried to get to that area and we were like, why can't we get to Peter Pan? And eventually a cast member just told us like, the area is closed. So now we get on to staying at resorts. It's always tricky for people to decide if they want to stay on site or they want to stay in like an off-site hotel or like a cheaper option. For me personally, I've always found it's worthwhile staying in a resort, just because when you book through the UK website, they include your park tickets in the cost of your room. So I pulled up how much it costs for a single day ticket right now. It's anywhere from £77 to £116 for one day. And then if you stay for up to 4 days, that's the longest ticket you can get, then it costs between £56 and £83 per day. So that amount times by 4. So say you were staying for 4 days, the cost of that ticket is going to come to about £250. That's obviously not cheap. It's a lot cheaper than, you know, the US parks for example, but maybe times that by 4 for a whole family, and it ends up being quite expensive just for the ticket outright. So I'm just looking on the hotel for example, and you can get 2 adults and 2 children and 3 days of park tickets for £923, which I feel like is a pretty good deal, because if you're paying for 3 lots of park tickets, say it's £60 per day, that's £180. This is too much maths for me. 180 times 4, that's already £720, and then you've just got another £200 on top of that for your accommodation for the whole time you're going to be there. So it doesn't always work out that cheaply. This is for like the cheapest resort, the Davy Crockett Ranch, but honestly you can get some really good deals when they just throw in the ticket price as part of your package. That's why I'm always skeptical of people being like, oh, it's so much cheaper to stay off site, because if you haven't got an annual pass and you have to factor in the cost of that ticket, I really think it is worth staying on site. You also get the benefit obviously of the extra magic hours. Most of them are a walkable distance away, so I stayed in the Newport Bay and it was about a 15-minute walk from our room to the park gate, which is just crazy compared to most of the resorts in Disney World. You have to hop on a bus, maybe another method of transportation just to get back to your resort. It can take up to an hour, which is always pretty crazy to me. There's also that added benefit of being able to go back to the resort during the afternoon if you need like a lie down, a nap, recharge your phone. I'm also just a sucker for a Disney resort. Like, give me a Mickey soap and I'll be happy. I have stayed at most of the resorts now. I will say Santa Fe, which is like the Cars themed one, is pretty run down. It's cheap, but it definitely needs a new lick of paint, I would say. Then I've stayed at the Hotel Cheyenne, which is like more Toy Story Woody themed, and I actually really love that one. It has a very western vibe, which is really fun. The Sequoia Lodge is kind of the equivalent to Wilderness Lodge in Disney World if you ever stayed there. It has that like cozy wilderness feel. Newport Bay is the equivalent to the Yacht and Beach Club. Hotel New York is completely different and unique to anything else I've seen in a Disney park. It has like all the art of Marvel around it, and it is a dream if you love Marvel. I personally love just like walking through the lobby, going to the Skyline Bar, having a cocktail. I don't need to stay there because I'm not like a big enough fan of Marvel, but if you are, very cool, and it's so sleek, and the smell of the lobby, beautiful. So I haven't stayed at that one. I also haven't stayed at the Disneyland Hotel. It is reopening in 2024, and I've kind of made a promise to myself, if I ever hit 15,000 subscribers on YouTube, I will stay in the Disneyland Hotel and have like a proper big, I'm not gonna say sleepover because Emily Enchanted has like owned that whole concept, but I would love to get like a bunch of friends and stay in a room and just live that dream and finally get to stay in the Disneyland Hotel when it's been renovated and it's all beautiful. So yeah, if you'd like me to achieve my dream and you haven't subscribed already, feel free to do so. I'm very close to 14,000 subscribers, so just another 1,000 and hopefully I can stay at the hotel when it reopens next year. So there's obviously quite a lot of hotels. They very much vary in budget, so feel free to have a look yourself to see which one will suit you best. My DMs are always open as well if you have questions about them. I don't know like all the answers, but I'm here to chat if you would like to. So now we talked about attractions, we talked about accommodation. It's now time to talk about my favorite part of Disney Parks experience, food. Just to kind of set the scene, Disneyland Paris has a reputation for not being that great for food, but I will say in the last couple of years they have come on so much. They have a lot more vegetarian and even vegan options now. The sweet treats are really improving. They have the Mickey premium bar, Mickey waffles. You can get turkey leg, which trash for me, but you can get it, which is part of like the American Disney park experience. They've got like themed macarons now, a lot more just like Mickey shaped food. And I always say in a Disney park, if you're going to make a food, you might as well make it Mickey shaped, because instantly you could charge an extra like $2-3 and people will lap it up for the Instagram. And it seems like Paris have finally caught on to that, which we love to see. So yeah, food is definitely improving, but it's still not at the level of the US parks, so kind of just like adjust your expectations. Another thing to keep in mind is that the quick service lines can be pretty slow, so just be patient and just know that you're in a different country, different culture, and you're not going to be rushed through like it is in McDonald's. Something to keep in mind as well, if you plan on dining with quick service locations primarily, a lot of these close around 4 p.m. You could eat one for lunch and think, oh, we'll go to another one for dinner, but then you show up and actually it's closed. Me and my mum did find this on one evening. We were suddenly hungry about 9 p.m. and only 2 restaurants were still open in the park, so our choices were pretty limited. That was more our fault for waiting till 9 o'clock to eat. So I would say that you should try and have like a bigger lunch, and then potentially you need to get out of the park to Disney Village to have like your second quick service meal for dinner. There's a few options like Earl of Sandwich, Annette's Diner, there's a Vapiano Italian place, but I would say yeah, you're probably best kind of making plans to leave the park for an hour or so, because the options are quite limited when it comes to quick service dinners. Another thing to note about quick service dining is often they're going to have menus outside with like a special menu, which includes an entree, a drink and a dessert. You don't have to get the special menu though. If you go inside, you're going to see more of a broad menu with loads of a la carte options, so don't get sucked into thinking that you have to order the whole special menu, because it's not that special. So we've spoken about quick service briefly, now it is on to full service. There's actually quite a few options now you can get for full service. My favourite on my most recent trip was the Pim Kitchen. It's a buffet restaurant, but you have to make a reservation, and I would recommend making that 60 days in advance for resort guests and 30 days for just regular ticket holders. They had such a good variety of food. They had giant burgers and little burgers, giant hot dogs and little hot dogs, giant desserts and little desserts. You get the picture. But it didn't just have the novelty value, the food was actually genuinely really good. Yes, it's quite expensive for 45 euros, but this is the day we actually ate at 9 p.m. because it kept us full the whole way through the rest of the day, because there was just so much good stuff to try. Another really cool restaurant is Captain Jack's, which is positioned on the side of the Pirates of the Caribbean rides. You have that beautiful bromine smell while you are dining in a very atmospheric atmosphere. There are quite a few buffets actually, like Agrabah Cafe, Plaza Gardens is a buffet. I will say in the hotels they really favour buffet dining for both breakfast and dinner. I've never personally done dinners in the hotels. I have done the breakfast and I found them to be quite limiting. This is nothing like the kind of breakfast you're gonna get in the US. You're not gonna get like Mickey waffles and banana pudding and donuts for breakfast. It's gonna be cereals, cold meats, cheese, bread. I don't think it's worth the money personally, but it's up to you. Before I move on to breakfast, actually, a lot of these tips kind of interlink. I will say that tipping is not required in France. In the US, obviously you tip like 20, even 25%. In France, 10% is fine. It's not required, but 10%, you know, you're fine to leave that. And I wouldn't really leave a lot more than that, because that's kind of customary and appropriate. So yeah, now moving on to breakfast quickly. Like I said about dinner, and a lot of places are not being open past 4 p.m. A lot of places also don't open that early, so it can be hard to get breakfast in the parks. That's why I'd recommend either bringing like a granola bar from home, being prepared, or going to Starbucks. So Starbucks is not going to be on Main Street like you'd find in the US. It is going to be in Disney Village before. Also, if you're staying at the Hotel Cheyenne, there will be a Starbucks on site, which is very lucky for those people because the lines are going to be pretty short. And then you can also get those speciality wish you were here mugs at those locations, which I love. I have one myself. They're expensive though. I think it was like 25 euros. So I'd recommend getting your breakfast at the Starbucks, whether it's like a banana bread or a muffin or something, just to kind of fuel you up and start your day. You can eat it in line, you can eat it while you're waiting, and then you can get to the rides quicker. Also, it does mean you can get like a proper coffee, because the coffee in the parks is like, it's fine, but it's not going to be speciality coffee. You're not going to get like your pink drinks, your brown sugar shaken espressos, you know, like the special beverages that Starbucks does that a lot of us associate with being a treat and being a Disney thing. You're gonna have to get those first before you go in. But if you prefer something a little bit stronger than just coffee, then you'll be pleased to know there is a champagne cart on Main Street at 4 p.m. I think it comes out, and it stays there through to the fireworks. This is honestly such a cool and uniquely Parisian experience. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner, but for 15 euros you can get a glass of champagne in a souvenir glass that you get to keep, and you can drink your champagne with like a view of the castle and Main Street. It's just perfect. Just remember to try and keep the glass secure though, because a friend of mine bought it and then smashed the glass. which is a little bit sad. That is something that used to be unique about Disneyland Paris. They actually serve wine and beer at the counter service locations. In the US, obviously, you can get drinks around the world at Epcot. You can get drinks at Hollywood Studios on Sunset Boulevard, but Paris has had it for a lot longer. You can get like a casual glass of wine with your meal if you would like to. Although obviously quite a lot of those places close before 4 p.m. Have wine with lunch. Why not? Do it how the French do. So that is all of my food tips. My final recommendation though, which is not really classified into a bucket, is to do with Dream Shine Brighter, the special 30th anniversary show. It is so wonderful. It happens 4 times a day and it sees loads of characters come down from the top of Main Street to the hub area where there are 4 mini stages like around the hub. They all go up onto these stages, they move around them, they dance. It is just wonderful and perfect. And this tip comes from my friend Fee, who gave it to me, and now I'm going to give it to all of you. So obviously there is the castle here. There's like a stage, a stage, a stage, a stage, and there's an area in the middle. That's where you want to stand, because then when the characters like moving around, you can follow them and see your favorite characters. When Rapunzel does her like see the light section, you can go stand with her. When Miguel is performing his Coco section, you can go stand with him and just kind of like run around and be excited and just soak up all that Disney magic and be surrounded by it. It is perfect, and I saw that show at least twice a day, sometimes 3 times. I think one time I saw every single show, much to my mum's not dismay. She was there for it, but she was like, really, are we gonna see it again? Yes. I kind of want to go back before September just to be able to see the show again one more time. Well, not one more time, multiple more times. So if you think I should, give this video a thumbs up and comment down below. You can also comment any questions you may have and I'll try to answer them, or share your suggestions and tips as well with the rest of the people who may be watching this video. If you watched all the way to the end, thank you so much. Feel free to subscribe. I have a couple more Disney trips planned for this year, and you never know, there may be another one. Also, I apologize for all the dodgy lighting in this video. I'm really battling with a cloudy / sunny sky right now. Here it goes changing again. I just can't wait. Bye!
Now I'm the king of the swingers, oh, the jungle VIP. I've reached the top and had to stop, and that's what's bothering me.